So I'm not sure exactly where we left off before, but I can tell you that the filler panel is welded on this seam. It's spot welded on the bottom. It's spot welded on the bottom on that side. There's a couple of random tack welds like in here just to kind of hold it in place. There's still some screws as well. And this section right here is the disaster that just gave me nightmares for a few weeks. So there was just a whole plethora of issues here that I had to work out. And I apologize for not documenting the whole thing, but it was one night where I would spend 20 minutes on it, and another night that I'd spend an hour on it, and another night that I spent 15 minutes on it. It was just so sporadic that I couldn't seem to put together real documentation for it. So, moral is, I'm going to tell you what I did. So, I kept the package shelf as it was, with the Chevelle curve and everything. I didn't modify the package shelf. I did modify the filler panel a bit. So here's what I did. So as you may remember, the filler panel on the Lemans is curved more, or a GTO, whatever Pontiac product you want. So the filler panel is curved more like this, but it's also curved more up and over, so the center is higher than the outer edges. So there was two things that I did to hopefully resolve this. And this is what it is. Okay, so the first thing I did was I drilled a bunch of holes in the filler panel, and I drilled them in spots where I knew there was metal underneath them. So there are sections in the center, I forget exactly where, and on the outside edges, where if you drill the hole in the wrong spot, you're gonna hit nothing. You're gonna hit basically empty space. And that's just because the Chevelle package shelf is different than the Pontiac one. So what I had to do was I had to figure out where to drill all the holes in the package shelf, or not in the package shelf, but in the filler panel, so that I hit Chevelle metal underneath. And that was not in the ideal spots that I would have liked. But it is all welded together now, and it's nice and solid. The other thing that I did was I cut this entire thing lengthwise all the way down. And I ended up extending it maybe, I'm going to say like 1/8 of an inch, something like that. And I also unfolded it in the center a little bit more than it was originally. And you can see that, well, I don't know if you can see that, but you can see it on the edges. Like down at this end, it's rolled over almost entirely over on itself, where in the center, it's almost straight up and down. And that is not perfect. It's not ideal. It's not what a 100-point restoration would get. But in my case, where we're working with a 72 Lemans Sport with an LS engine, and this thing is never going to be a show car. It is going to be a driver that you can go, take it to the racetrack, take it for ice cream, go do some burnouts, and not care too much about it. So in my scenario, I just don't feel like getting this lip perfect is something worth spending the next month of my life on. So what I have done is just kind of rolled out the center a little bit. I left the outer edges rolled almost completely over. And now there's a gap basically all the way down that is somewhat even. And that should allow me to put a package shelf, nope, not a package shelf, a package tray in there and put it up under. Okay, that was a lot to say. I'm sorry, it's kind of boring, but I feel like I should document this so that people know how the heck I did this in the future, and so that I know how I did it in the future. Okay, so we're inside the car now, and I'm gonna try to demonstrate what the issue was. Basically, the center of the rear window is arched like this. And on a Pontiac Lemans or a GTO, the Chevelle is not. Actually, you can see this sort of, the filler panel, you can see is probably like 1 1/8 inch here. And in the center, it's kind of raised up a little bit. And then over here, it's like 1 1/8 inch again. It's probably like 1 1/2 right here, maybe. And basically, it's raised up in the center. So that was a problem. But what I realized was if I was to work the metal around the edges just right, it allowed for the glass to sit almost perfectly on the bottom. So it took about 1 trillion tries, and I finally got it to a point where I'm happy enough with it where I think the glue that I glue the window down with will take up any other gap that exists. So hopefully that's the case. I'm sure I'll find out as soon as it rains once I have the new window in. And yeah, we'll see if I'm right or if I'm wrong. Either way, this is what we got. So I'll throw the glass in and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. And yeah, we'll go from there. We're back in the car. Okay, so I have basically put the glass in, and down at the bottom, this is not going to show up well on video, I can guarantee it. But there is very little gap all the way around the glass now. The worst is probably, it's probably still this corner over here. But at worst, it's still maybe, I'm going to say not even 1/8 of an inch. It's probably a little more than a 1/16 or something like that. And honestly, I think that the glue that holds this glass in place is going to be enough to make up that gap. So we're at a point where I can now just finish up the metal, and well, let me just show you. Here's the window back out again, and you can see I've kind of filled in all the rest of the holes. This is still the lead section that I have to work out, and up here you can see there's like 1 pin left that I'm gonna have to grind off and then drill that out and put the new pins in. Up here, this is where I sliced the roof. Same with right here. So I basically just have to go around here and clean up the metal so that it looks as nice as this side does. And once I do that, then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get some probably fiberglass body filler, and I'm going to fill in the lead section over here and over here. I'm gonna grind it out and clean it first. I would do lead, but I looked up how much lead, like a leading kit would be. And to do lead, you have to buy a handful of tools and the lead itself, obviously, and then there's like flux and some other junk. And it was gonna cost me like $100 and something. So unfortunately, I am not at a point where I can spend $100 and something to fill in 2 little divots with lead, when I could just use $8 of fiberglass reinforced body filler and it will be fine for the next 20 years. So I'm gonna do the body filler route. Unfortunately, I don't want to, but you know, whatever. And then I'll coat the whole thing. I'll skim coat the whole thing in normal body filler just to find any low spots or high spots, of course. And then we'll prime and paint it, and hopefully it won't look like complete garbage. We'll find out, and I'll make sure to document it. So for now, I'm going to grind down all of this metal, make it look pretty, and we'll see where the night takes us. It might be kind of boring, but hey, thanks for sticking around. The whole thing is kind of probably pretty boring, but you know what? It is what it is. All right, let's grind stuff. So I also realized that I never finished this corner, and I also have to finish the quarter panel drip edge over there. So let's take a look at those. Right here, I have to cut this corner out because I made the corner, but I never met the quarter panel up to it. So I'm gonna have to cut this out and weld in a little piece there. And then over on the other side, I still have this disaster to work out. So this whole quarter panel piece is just trash. And I need to basically make a new one, which shouldn't be too difficult from the looks of it. But you can see it is pretty rotted and gross, probably down to maybe about here. So we're talking 6 to 8 inches probably. So I'm gonna have to work that out as well. I think what I might do is I might do that side first, because that side looks like it might be quick and easy and something I can just knock out tonight without causing too much drama. So let's do that. In the time lapse, I made a template out of a Rice Krispies box, and then I transferred it over to some steel, cut it out with some tin snips, and this is my replacement piece. It's not perfect on this edge, but I think when I weld it, it will just melt together fine. So I am going to now grind this so that there's no primer on it, or paint on it, whatever it is. And then I'm gonna just tack weld it in and see how it looks. And I should be able to tap it from the bottom to make it just flush. And I'm gonna TIG weld it so that I don't have a lot to grind afterwards. I think I've praised TIG welding a whole bunch of times, so I don't need to do it again. Ah, I lost it in the hole. Oh yeah, the other thing is, if you don't have one of these magnets, these things are great. I think I got this at Harbor Freight for like, I don't know, $5 or something like that. But this thing is like super useful. It extends, and it's a pretty strong magnet, so it's great for doing stuff like this. All right, let me fish that piece out of the hole, and then I'm gonna weld it on. While I let the metal cool down, I figured I'd do a quick little short video to show you how it's coming out. Not the most perfect TIG welds you've ever seen, but it'll do. And yeah, you can see the new piece is in there. It's kind of tacked in place a little bit. So once this cools down, I'll finish welding it up, and then I'll grind it until it's smooth. And then this corner will be looking pretty good. Then I can work on the other corner, I guess. So let's cool down. What a disaster this place is. Somebody needs to clean this up. So I've now welded this in place. I've ground it smooth, and now you can see there's no more rot. So that's good. So I just need to basically kind of skim this with some filler just to make sure it's perfectly smooth and it matches the whole area. And yeah, I'm calling the metal work right there done. Actually, it looks like I still have to weld this. So darn it. So I got to do that. But I think I'm going to call it quits. All right. So that's it for tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed the update. I apologize for there not being one for a couple weeks. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Definitely subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, if you think there's anybody else out there, any friends of yours that might enjoy watching this, definitely share the video because it helps me out. All right, well, we will see you next time. Hopefully you have a wonderful night, and I'll see you soon. All right.